so this is that thing, there's always a solution. There's always someone who could help me. If I've got that ability to go looking for, and so that's where research also helps us to expand and to see new opportunities. So whatever field you're in, I would really recommend adding that to your ability to see more opportunities and to talk with experts in the field to see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and how they can pull new and creative things off. And that determination not to be stopped by the naysayers. How did you do with seeing and seizing opportunities? How did that go?
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Seize the day. We gave you more time than usual, 20 minutes each. How did that go? Seized it? To get in that place? Comments, questions, experiences with that, things to troubleshoot so that you can get into that kind of a state and see opportunities, seize opportunities, and add that kind of business sense so that you can make that happen?
Yes, Michael, what I was doing, I was at a point, I had an opportunity, but I didn't know if I wanted to go for it. I was kind of holding back and going, well, let me check it out. And then I realized I wasn't ready to make a decision about jumping for it, going for it. And then I realized that I saw the vision and everything in this whole pattern here. And then I went to seizing it, and I realized that everything, just about everything was there to seize the opportunity. So it's like, why not?
It's ready to do it.
Yeah, so another adventure.
Okay. So now all the readiness is there. You just need to bring that just do it.
Just do it. Right, and I didn't know that everything was in place. It's like this whole time I've been here, everything's been getting in place, and now this pattern's here, and it's showing me you're ready now. Now's the time.
Okay. Very good. Any insights that came to you, or any kind of specific things that you added that made it richer for you that'd be good to share?
Oh, just playfulness, and that
Okay.
it's just a game.
It's just a game.
It's just a game, and that if you just play at the game, and you're creating the game, it's your game. You know, that's what's that was a great realization for me.
Okay.
If it's your game and you're making the rules.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Excellent. Do you feel like you've at least begun the process of texturing your mind for seeing and seizing opportunities? I think one of the things that a lot of us in the NLP neurosemantic community, because we do tend to be option-oriented. We like lots of options, and a lot of times we're just doing too many things. And we really do need to make a decision and give ourselves to something and go for it, become masterful at that. And even if that's not the final one, at least there'll be all kinds of learnings, and at least we will get ourselves into a place where we're ready for the next step when that one occurs in seizing opportunities. When I do the writing workshop, one of the things I always ask is how many books are you reading right now? I read one or two at a time. And sometimes people ask me, how do I remember things? Well, if you live with one author, and then you'll know what that author said. And it's easier. But if you're reading, 12 at the same time and jumping, it's like, now, which one said that? So that's the power of focus. And part of seizing an opportunity is living with something till you can become masterful enough and having some expertise with it that you can do something of significance with it. And so I think for a lot of us, seizing an opportunity is saying no and focusing on a couple things, having 2 or 3 lines, but not misusing our energy by trying to do too many and being so scattered, and then not having closure with anything. And that may be the risk. That may be the risk taking to saying no to some, or saying later to some other things. Other insights or awarenesses?
Just curious, in terms of reading books, is it okay if I read 12 books?
We could make an exception on that one.
It's one author.
I just had one insight as you were talking, because that was one of my challenges was, which Gary helped me work on, was giving myself permission to say no to the good things, to say yes to the best things. And just as you were talking, I just had another reframe that it doesn't have to be saying no to those; it can be saying later to them.
Right.
Later on. Not shutting them off completely, but just putting them away for right now until I finish this, and then go back into the other one. So that was even a nice reframing to set on that one.
One of the other things I would recommend for you is don't get yourself so busy that you have no room to create a new choice if something did arise. Because sometimes we're so busy, we have to say later because there's no room, there's no movement at all. So one of my commitments is not to be that busy. I just don't want to be that busy anyway. As well as if something came up, I could clear some space, clear some calendar, and take advantage of something if something came up. One of the things I think that prevents us from seizing opportunities is that we're too busy. And so we're not balanced in our health and our relationships and other things. And so that may be something else to seize it with regard to that. That's Ellen?
One thing that came up to me was I was doing great on the seeing the opportunity, but my difficulty was giving myself permission to benefit to seize, to get benefit. The altruism took the best of me. So I'm here helping you accomplish your vision, and without expecting any benefit from it. And so I really had to work hard, and probably still continue to have to work on that.
That is okay for you to receive.
That is okay that I can have a share out of this. That is, I deserve it, and I can insert my side of the vision that would expand that with my skills, so that will make both visions more wonderful, and so on.
In seeing and seizing opportunities, do you have built in there the willingness to do the research? Because that may be part of it also. I have learned. I had that rental property. I had never read one book on real estate. And so I went to the library and started doing my research when I was doing the wealth building, because I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to be informed. I have learned so much about that, and it has just increased the ability to do new things. Like I never knew about a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange, I mean, this allows us to take here in this country, to take the investment property monies and to sell that, pay no taxes on it, do an exchange and get something as valuable as or more than the other one, and to reinvest it. A couple of years ago, I did that with one rental property that had a lot of equity in it, bought this house, rented it for 2 years, moved into it for 18 months, claimed it as my own, paid no personal, otherwise I'd pay 30, 40% interest or tax. And I like the idea of not paying tax. So the research created opportunities I didn't have a clue about. And I can tell you story after story after story about that, of opportunities that came through research. So one of the ways I want to seize is to have more business intelligence and sense about whatever it is that I'm doing. And in recent years, I've been doing that with learning more and more about the publishing business, since I've got a company that publishes, and I'm wanting to extend that to several other countries, and learning about that kind of a thing. A number of years ago, I had purchased a couple places, and in fact, I purchased a house so that I could have an office and home, and so I built a big office onto the house. And I tried to get a bank to lend me some money so I could buy the place. And there wasn't a bank in town that would live. So I finally found an owner who would own or carry. Well, I paid 12% interest for 3 years. After 3 years, I thought, okay, now I've got some history, so I'll go to a bank. I went to 12 banks in town, and everyone says, you're too much of a risk. I said, I've been paying 12% interest. I said, I could get it down to 8%, and it'd be a whole bunch less. And so none of them would lend me. So I started looking around to see if there was some other thing. And I came across creative mortgaging places. Now I work with IMAX. I don't know if you know IMAX as an organization. Whereas a bank will look at income, and the banks look, and every time I buy something else, I'm more of a risk. So my ability to borrow is less and less. With IMAX and some of these creative mortgaging places, every time I have another one, that brings up the ability to borrow more. And so now, the last houses I've been buying, Tarl Booth, who is the person who I work with, I now have the ability to borrow more than $1.5 million for more houses. So if I want to get out of training, I just go there and buy 10 more houses every year. Because so this is that thing. There's always a solution. There's always someone who could help me if I've got that ability to go looking for, and so that's where research also helps us to expand and to see new opportunities. So whatever field you're in, I would really recommend adding that to your ability to see more opportunities and to talk with experts in the field to see what they're doing and how they're doing it and how they can pull new and creative things off. And that determination not to be stopped by the naysayers. Every time I go by a couple banks in town, I just kind of show you. You won't lend me money. What's that?
How come you don't do stated income?
I do no document loans.
Right. No docs, right. But I mean, they still won't give you the
Oh, no. Oh, no. Too big of a risk. So seizing opportunities and being able to make things happen. This afternoon, one of the patterns I want to run is the efficiency pattern. To become efficient in whatever you do, instead of wasting time and procrastinating, going around in circles, being efficient. So we'll run the efficient one, and we'll run the abundance one at that. You have an hour for lunch, and then an hour. In asking efficiency, think about something that you do and you're very efficient in doing it. Maybe something that has dropped out of conscious awareness and you just do it. Maybe even driving, depending on your driving skills. Efficiency. Or getting yourself ready in the morning. Or clearing your desk. Or doing your budgeting. Or business plans. Something you do efficiently. Just smoothly. You just ease right through it and it's piece of cake. Something efficient that you do. Think of something that you do and you're not very efficient. It's like you struggle. You go around. You repeat it. You clean up the mistakes. And it's like there's not efficiency. We want to play off on these two states, these two experiences, these two skills, efficiency and the lack of efficiency, inefficient, and so forth. So on page 59, I have a contrast list here. In inefficiency, here are some of the qualities. Wasting time and energy. So the first time I ever ran this pattern, I created this pattern for the writing workshop. And so the very first time I was thinking about writing, rewriting, going over something, and the efficiency and in terms of wasting time and energy. Maybe inefficiency is the lack of planning, being scattered. Unfocused. When we're scattered, when we're unfocused, when we're not really clear, we're not very efficient, whatever we're doing. Maybe disorientation. Or maybe just not doing anything, being inactive. That's pretty inefficient in terms of getting anything done. Procrastinating. Or maybe you're just back and forth, even making the decision. Should I, shouldn't I? Maybe there's a slowness. Maybe there's the lack of skill somehow, and it feels laborious in that way. Or the failure to delegate. Maybe that's the lack of efficiency. We're inefficient because someone else could do it, we could delegate it, but we stand around and micromanage when we don't need to be, when we could delegate. Maybe we're involved in a lot of unimportant activities, and that's what makes us inefficient. We're just doing a whole bunch of things that are not important. They're urgent, but they're not important. Or maybe there's just so much clutter, and that's what creates the inefficiency. You know, I can't find my, who took my, and there's a clutterness. Or excessive socializing. Maybe we're inefficient because we spend too much time at the water cooler, or the pub, or whatever we're doing. We just talk too much, and we'll talk about other things than the business or the focus. Or we get to a meeting and we spend a lot of time in peripheral things that are irrelevant. Or failure to say no. Or standards too high and it's never good enough. It should be better, could be better. What's wrong with me? And perfectionistic standards. So maybe that creates inefficiency. Efficiency, effective use of time and energy. That is the wealth of energy, that for little energy, much is produced. And so efficiency of the use of time. Or the sense of planning and acting and focused and making notes, thinking strategically, operating on purpose and intentionally, sorting out important things and being relevant about what we do, making a decision and then taking action instead of going round and round indecisively, effectively organizing things so that it moves smoothly. Sometimes the way to do something efficiently is, before we start, getting everything in place so that instead of halfway through, well, where is, and then we can't continue because we didn't plan ahead of time and organize it. Balance between activities, good boundaries instead of the failure to say no, and instead of being perfectionistic, just optimizing, doing the best we can and leaving it at that. Well, that's just a primer to get us started thinking about efficient and inefficient. And some other questions come in at this point. What saps your energy and focus? Most of us have energy sappers that'll just sap out our energy and our focus. What takes it away for you? For me, I know if I'm not physically fit and feeling good in my body, I'm not going to be as efficient. There may be, nervousness or just not enough focused energy. So sometimes the most efficient thing to do is to go take a walk and clear my mind, or get some exercise in. So what saps your energy? And so here's a whole menu list there, from indecision to boredom to unfocused, and lots of things. What saps your energy? Self-judgment and judgmental attitude saps it for me. It'll just sap it. But when I'm kinder, gentler, that'll create more focus and energy. So what puts energy into your step? What gives you a sense of vitality and robustness there? And what do you need? So do you know what it will take to increase your efficiency and your effectiveness by becoming better and better at some of the key critical skills or components to whatever you do? So as we run this pattern, think about something that you do that you'd like to do with more efficiency, less of these inefficient factors or components. And as you think about that, what are the key skills that are necessary, the component critical skills that would enable you to be more efficient? So you may want to make some notes for a moment just to kind of think about something that would increase your efficiency. In business, in writing, in your business, in your business plan, something that would increase. Where would you like to have more efficiency? It could be in your personal life. It could be in your health and exercise, being more efficient in your relationships. So efficiency. Efficiency is that we get more done with less thought, energy, focus. So efficiency. And, of course, we're asking the intentional question, are you willing to become better at the most important things that you do? So efficiency. I've run this pattern on a couple things, and there's a couple places in my life that I now feel I'm pretty efficient. Pretty efficient getting things done, getting them done quickly, easily, with focus, using my genius state to move through that. And so the efficiency pattern is a pattern that allows me to use that. And as we go through this, we'll look at some of the factors that's part of this whole sense of efficiency. Does everybody have some area in life that you feel you're fairly efficient? Okay, because that's going to be that's going to help as a template to ease you through this pattern. And think small, simple. You know, being efficient, getting up, getting dressed, getting a meal, getting to work. So anything that you've done repeatedly will probably have finally streamlined to where you're fairly efficient now. And that's what we want to tap into, that sense of that efficiency, and what are some of the factors that make that so. Let me run the pattern with somebody. And we're going to start on step 1 with access and fully represent personal efficiency. So think of something you've done that you could call and use the label, the word efficient.
Just to wake up and just stand up and move.
Okay, and just move.
Yes.
Just efficiently get ready for the day?
Yes, get ready for the day.
Okay. So when did you not waste time, not waste effort or energy or resources doing something? Has there been a time in your life like that? And so what we want to do in doing that is also to look for what are the key competencies that allow you to do that. And you don't need to say that aloud. It's mostly just your awareness of how do you know that you do it efficiently?
Well, because I do it.
Okay, so make your movie in your mind, just play it through and just see how it's efficient.
Yes.
And if it's efficient now, then probably at some time it wasn't efficient. So you might want to kind of make a contrast to that, to a time when you wasted time, wasted effort, went around in circles, didn't know what you want to wear, didn't know what you want to do. But now you can do it efficiently. And one of the questions we want to ask is, what is there? What are some of the qualities, some of the states, some of the factors that allow you to be efficient?
Well, a sense of purpose, you know.
Okay.
A sense of need to do something.
Okay, so sense of purpose.
Yes.
And some need to accomplish something.
Yes, just to start the day and follow through.
Okay.
And like I have something to do today.
Okay.
And it's very important.
Okay.
To achieve, you know, my goals. And that makes me, I feel, that drives me to.
Okay.
To be ready.
Okay. So notice what it feels like when you're in this state of efficiency. And when you think of this, it's easy to say, this is the state of efficiency. Notice what that feels like. Notice your breath. Notice your posture. Notice what it's like on the inside, because that's the feeling that we want to do. Well, what I want to now do is to check some of the neurosemantic frames about efficiency to make sure that what you think and feel about that supports you and enhances your life. Think about being efficient in some other area that you're not efficient. What area would you like to be efficient in?
Well, in detecting method programs and apply them.
Okay, so that would be an area you'd like to be much more efficient in. And so as you think about that, just imagine if you were efficient there, what would that mean to you?
Well, a lot. It will mean like I will have the ability to communicate easy with people.
Okay.
And, you know, I think that if I can communicate with people, I can achieve goals.
Okay.
Because I need a relation, you know, between myself and the world, and that connection is by people.
Okay.
And in order to achieve something, it's like I need people.
Okay. What is the Spanish word for efficiency?
Eficiencia.
Okay. When you think about that word, when you hear that word, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
That you are doing something and you are getting results.
Okay.
But the efficiency is everything that you do, work or not, or in which you know, level. So how much result you get from that.
Okay.
And that's.
Do you have permission to be efficient?
Yes.
Okay. No, nothing holds you back from being efficient?
Nothing.
Okay. Nothing seduces or tempts you to not be efficient?
No.
Okay. As you think about that, does it feel like work? Does it feel like work?
No. It feels like a challenge. It's more like excitement. It's like it's good to do.
Okay. So think about something you do efficiently. That when other people stand back and look at you, it looks like work, and they may even say you're a good worker.
Well, it could be not like work, but it's reading.
Okay.
You know, I'm a good reader.
Okay. And so if you use the word work, would that be okay?
Yes. Yes.
If you use the word discipline.
Well, discipline is like learning, basically, for me.
So no
like
negative connotations with discipline?
Discipline is like I need to continue, you know, until I have the knowledge or the result that I want.
Okay. So you've used the word, I need to do this several times.
Yes.
When you say I need to, does that settle well?
Yes.
No pressure?
No, there is no pressure.
Force?
It's like a driving force. It's not like pressure.
Okay.
It's because if I do that, I will achieve
so it's
something
a good force.
Yes, yes.
It's a good force.
It's pushing me like, do it.
Okay.
But it's good. I'm feeling good.
So as you're doing this, you're obeying orders. In this instance, your own orders. Because you said, I want to do this.
Yes.
And as you do this, you're just obeying, just following the rules that you've set in your mind. Okay.
Yes.
And all of that settles well.
Yes.
Okay. So I've gone through step 3 and 4 now, checking for permission and checking for what it means. And you can see I've been asking these kinds of questions about taking orders, or do you have to do this, or discipline, or work, or anything like that, because efficiency tends to be connected with these kinds of semantic states. And sometimes we want to be efficient, but I don't want to work. I want to be efficient, but I don't want to be disciplined. I want to be efficient, but I don't want to take orders. And it puts us at that odds. But Juan, you seem like all of these are real positively framed for you.
Yes. Well, also for receiving orders, I was in the Navy, and I was easy to follow orders.
Okay.
When those orders will be good with me.
Okay.
But it's easy. It's like, but I guess like driving frame is like ordering more than any word of myself.
Okay. So I'm going to read number 5, because some of you probably will need number 5, and you may not need this. But what I want you to do is to take on that sense of efficiency, which is a form of self-discipline, self-control, and taking these orders. And I want you to feel it fully, and just let it grow and become more and more inside of you. And you can recall that others may call this by some of these other words, by some of these other names. They may call this work, and you can if you want to, or you can just call it efficiency, or you can call it fun, or playfulness, or just getting the results you want.
Yes.
And as you experience it in this positive way, you can recognize that others may look at this and call this self-discipline. And if that helps you, you can call it that, or you can, once again, call it fun and getting the results I want.
Yes, well, it's like, for me, it's more like kind of determination.
Okay, it's like determination.
Yes.
And that's good?
Yes, really good.
Okay, so as you feel that, you know that some other may say, he's really determined. He's really focused. And if those are good words for you, you can own them.
Yes.
And you can feel that this is your exercise of your own personal powers to get yourself to do what you want to do that's important for you. And regardless of whether you feel like it or not, you just do it efficiently, and get it done.
Yes.
Okay. So with that feeling, rise up to your highest intention. Just notice why this is important to you, and why is that important, and just move up to the highest intention. And are you fully aligned to be efficient, just to get stuff done? Okay, no objection in the back of your mind to that.
No.
Are you clear about some of the goals that you have?
Yes, I'm clear.
For learning meta programs, detecting meta programs,
yes.
Using meta programs, some of the goals.
Yes.
What are some of the goals that you have for meta programs to first detect and use them?
Well, to know more about them, just to recognize the 51, I guess,
Okay.
and start by that. So which are the meta programs?
Okay.
And totally, and I guess start to read sentences that, okay, you can recognize here, and that can be a way.
Okay. So you've got some specific goals.
Yes.
And as you think about looking at those goals and just efficiently making them happen, whatever work, quote unquote, whatever discipline,
Yes,
whatever
yes.
effort, whatever determination. you
Okay,
need
I
to
got
do.
it.
Okay. And that settles fine?
Yes.
And you're aligned with that?
Yes.
Um,
I have the sense of use the genius state to be focused, to pay attention, like a resource.
Okay. Okay. Notice how you experience your sense of self as you do this.
Like feeling well.
Okay.
So like myself, seeing myself, okay, you're doing well.
Okay. So as a thumbs up for
Yes.
there's that sense of self. Do you think of yourself as an efficient person?
Yes, yes. Well, he's more efficient than me. But, I'm trying to close the gap.
Mm-hmm. Have you always thought of yourself as an efficient person?
No, more like if I don't know, it's more like a learn how to.
Okay.
But not, so efficiency is like I'm doing something and I having these results.
Okay.
So if I need another result, so I need to increase knowledge and apply it.
Okay. Would you like to think of yourself and let that be part of your self-definition?
Yes.
That's who I am.
Yes.
I get things done. I get things done efficiently. I am efficient. Would that settle into your self-identity?
Yes.
You'd
Yes.
like that? So as you say that, notice how that feels, and especially as you think about the meta programs and the learnings that will be coming up in the next few days.
That's good.
Okay. Okay. So just be with that. You're taking this on very easily. Nothing that objects to it.
No.
Nothing that
No.
stops you. Nothing interferes with you.
Just being like in a playfulness, just to just start.
Okay.
Start
Just
playing. Yes.
Start. So notice the voice in the back of your mind about that facilitates and drives this kind of efficiency. Just do it. Have
Yes,
fun.
yes. Have fun, and you can do it, and just follow through.
Okay. So just be with that for a moment. Notice the breath, notice the posture, notice the breathing. And then imagine something comes up that is a challenge. It's going to take some work.
Yes.
And with that, feel all of this toward that, so that you can just ease yourself right through it efficiently.
Yes. It will take some time, but it will be accomplished.
Okay. Can anything stop you from being efficient, from learning those programs?
No. Maybe, well, it's not a stop, but maybe the time will be, or could be, not the one that I think. So it could be more, but it's not a stopping.
Okay.
It's like can happen.
Okay. Give him a hand. So what we want to do is to take on a sense of efficiency, to get things done, and to orient ourselves, to align ourselves so that what on the outside may look like work or determination or self-control or all these other funny words that we could call it, and sometimes we say these words ourselves and it puts us into a spin. And what we want to do is to get aligned with it, to clear out any of the cobwebs or the dragons so that we can become efficient. And of course, it predisposes that you have permission to become efficient.
Is that point number 5, neutralize and integrate the neurosemantics of work, etc. Is that to check if that efficiency state is not influenced by those words?
Right.
Or just to trigger him or her? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, from my angle I couldn't tell, but did you do a physical anchor? I thought I saw you
feel all
do
of this now that you've got a good state toward that.
Okay.
It's easy to be efficient when things are going well and easily. And so when the things get tough and when I have to stay with it and and move through it. So then I want to take this state of just being efficient, just doing it. And so that's why to anchor that state and take it to that. So for a number of you, there will be all kinds of things going on, and that's why we neutralize these other words and these other phrases, and you might have to rewind some movies so that you have permission to be efficient. Because if somebody has been on your case in the past, then we may have attached some negative feelings to even be efficient. And we want to be efficient, but we can't be because it feels like we're being ordered around or controlled or disciplined or some of these words that get in our way. So that's why we want to clear that out. As you look at your list of inefficiency things, you may have to deal with one of those things: the procrastination, the perfectionism, the over-socializing, the lack of boundaries. That may be the very thing that will come up that will prevent you, that you'll have to deal with. So that primer there is designed to identify those kinds of things so that we can become efficient in whatever we do.
Well, for me, I was testing the pattern because it was a challenge to go there and make the exercise. So I have the self-judgment, but I take it away and follow through.
Okay.
So that was the exercise. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's take 10 minutes each. Let's take 12 minutes each, and we'll see how that goes. 12 minutes each. How'd that go for you? Okay. Any troubleshooting that we need to do in terms of chasing out anything that would prevent you from being efficient in the areas that you choose to be efficient in?
The only real problem was I wasn't efficient enough to get through the whole pack.
You found that too, huh?
Well, you'll get around to it.
Something just occurred to me, and I'm a very in-time person. I can just get lost in the moment. And I'm wondering if there's something that would beef this up for those of us that are in time, because right now I have great intentionality about going home and being very efficient in the morning. But when I'm sitting down there on the in time drinking my French press coffee, I'm so in time that I might forget that I had said that I was going to do my Pilates at 7:30.
Okay. So this is where when we ask the question, could anything stop you? And if your meta program of being in time, if that could stop you and cause you just to waste time. So there's external things we can do. Now, when we get to meta programs, we're going to talk about how to change meta programs and especially timelines. I think everybody should have at least 2 timelines, through time and in time. Because if you don't have those 2, then you're stuck in one or the other. And well, this was what Richard said when I first did my trainings in 1988, and Tad had just published Timeline Therapy. And Richard said that Tad went out before he heard the rest of the statement. It was timeline, not timeline. Because I have 3 timelines. I have my through time. That's my most natural one. I have end time when I just get lost. End time is primary state because you don't know there's a time. Through time is actually a meta state when you move up and you notice and you can sequence and recognize sequencing of time. And so those 2 tend to be linear kind of structures. I also have a circular timeline. A circular for a year, a 12-month calendar, and it's kind of this kind of a thing here. So sometimes when you ask me, what are you going to do next January, I'm going up here. And when you ask me next March, and so I have a circular one that keeps me oriented in that way, in the year, the seasons, and the structure. And so if you ask me, well, where were you in the spring of 2000, I kind of run around and And so that's another timeline that helps me to sort things out. Where do I do that? So I would recommend at least 2 timelines for everybody, in time and through time, so you can shift. So that when you're on holiday, you can just get lost in time and just be there. Time can go away. When you get in your genius state, you can go there, and you set the frame as to when to come out. When to come out. So when we ran the Personal Genius the other day, I made the statement that one of the constraints I've set is that every 45 minutes, regardless of what I'm doing when I'm reading or studying, I'm going to come up for air and just notice what's out before so I have an internal clock operating to protect me from getting too lost and forgetting what time it is. Okay? So in your Personal Genius states, when should you be here? When should you not? And so those are some of those constraints that we're setting for the Personal Genius state, so that to help us to become more efficient in our use of time. Any insights with efficiency? One of the things I have found about this pattern is that as people run it, as they run it, they start having some insights about what they're going to have to do now, shifting some of the way that they move through the world to be more efficient.
We had some interesting insights. We both had this. We both were procrastinating in some kind of way because when we are efficient, then after that, what happens then? You know, so we lacked purpose after that in that particular situation, and it was really interesting that the sense of purpose actually totally became internal as I started to do this pattern. It just turned around. Instead of an external purpose, it became an internal purpose.
Okay. And was there a shift in how you experienced purpose when it was external versus when it was internal?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. Because I took something efficiently, you know, small, simple, like fixing the tire when it's punctured or something.
Okay.
And I became aware how purposeful that is.
Uh-huh.
Because it allows me to do a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, good.
Fascinating.
Okay, good. One of the things I became aware of after I had run this pattern a few times with myself is that I realized I could waste time if I sit down at the computer and I don't know what I'm going to write. And I realized that I tend to write to titles. I don't need a lot to get me started, but if I have a title, if I have a theme, if I have a few words, I can write to that. And I can write to that if somebody gives me some words. So I write a lot of articles that Karen Corbin and some other people who are doing promoted, they'll get a magazine who wants an article. They want 1,500 words, or they want so many words about this. And I've said to Karen, I said, just get me the theme. I want the theme as much as the demographics, who I'm writing to, and what their style is. Give me that theme, and I can write to that. In fact, I can adjust it later on for who it's going to be for. But if you give me that theme. And so I noticed that in my efficiency, a lot of times I'm not ready to write yet about something. I'm still waiting to put some words together and play with some words. And once I get that word, I'm ready to go. And so for me, recognizing that, then there's times not to write. Because I would be wasting time or just going round and around. And I don't like the feeling of that. I like being on purpose. I like that internal purpose driving it. And so it's just a little piece. It's like if you were efficiently going to fix supper and you went into the kitchen and just started fixing and you hadn't even checked to see if you got the materials. That's not a very efficient way to do it. So this is where planning, proactivity, thinking ahead, what do I need, what can I set up so that I can just efficiently do this with skill, with grace, with elegance, and just slide right through it, because it's all there. It's all ready. And all I need to do is get in the state and make it happen. So as you think about some of the things that would make for efficiency, that would allow you to slide through things that otherwise would be difficult, or you go around, or you'd procrastinate, or you wouldn't have the energy, or whatever it is, becoming more efficient. This is where critical components, key components and critical components, what are the critical components of your activity? If you don't even know what the critical components are, It's hard to pull them together, provide an organization for them so that you can efficiently move through them. So I would suggest identifying those critical components. What are the critical components that allow it to be efficient? And when you know that, then you can do one of those quality control. Do I have all the components here that I can put together and run through it? Once a year, I sit down in January to do my taxes. And throughout the year, I've got 2 or 3 boxes. I've got boxes for rental properties, for trainings, for the book company, for a number. And all through the year, I'm just throwing in receipts. I'm throwing in papers. I'm doing this. And then somewhere in January, I know I'm going to have to sit down and maybe spend 8 hours sorting, cleaning, getting ready for the CPA to go that. Well, how can I efficiently do that? How can I get my intention so that I'm motivated to do that? And then what would be some things that would make it easy so I can just slide through it? Well, a couple of years ago, talking with a number of people, getting some ideas, I realized that if I set some nice music on, cleared my desk, got a glass of wine, well, I'll start with one. that some of this, it just makes it efficient. Then I get my box out, start sorting, get my stapler, get my punch hole, start sorting and doing some little files. And it's all there, and I'm just listening to some great music, drinking some wine, and doing it. Plus, I've already prepared myself. I've got a day to do that. And I picked some cold day in January in Colorado to do that. And so it makes it efficient. Plus, I'm not making it inefficient by being in the wrong state and feeling like it's a waste of time. Why do I have to do that? And so I even look forward to it. So these are the insights, it seems to me, for efficiency. What would allow you to ease through what otherwise you would procrastinate? You would go round and round. You would do anything that would be a facet of inefficiency for you. And so some of that preparation and that initiative and that proactivity seems to me to be part of what we put together for efficiency. Are there insights, are there awarenesses that came to you in that process or as you think about it now? I'm committed to becoming more and more efficient. I like being efficient. There's just something nice about feeling like I can get stuff done and that it's not a lot of work. And so I'm more committed to streamlining it year by year so that there's just a lot more efficiency. A lot of times people ask me how I write so much. And they ask me, do I ever sleep? Of course I sleep. I like sleep. I write 1 hour every day. I've written 1 hour every day since I've been here. Usually I get up early in the morning and write. If I don't, then it'll be late at night. And I'm just committed to writing at least 1 hour a day when I'm at trainings. When I'm home, I'll write 6 to 8 hours a day. And so it doesn't, it just doesn't take that much. And so I can turn out 3 to 4 books a year with 50 articles. I write about 50 articles a year. And so because little by little, piece by piece, it just doesn't even feel like a struggle.
Spending that much time writing, what do you use? I mean, to sit on, and what kind of computer do you
Computers, made for that amount of writing.
I write by typing. Yeah.
Is this something that came natural, or is this something you developed, like you decided and you developed the ability to do it?
Well, the efficiency has been growing over the years. Part of it is the personal genius state, to where when I step in, I'm there in the right state to write. That's part of efficiency, being in the right state. That is key. That is one of those critical variables, being in the right state and having purpose and intention. Because if I don't know, what am I doing? Why? So that's another critical variable, that intentionality. And then asking, what are some of the other skills? For me, writing out longhand, I think far too fast. I can't go fast enough. Much faster. Much faster.
So it's the application of these sort of techniques that allowed you to tap into your ability to be that way. You weren't always that way.
No, I was born this way. I got riding genes.
I would also have to assume that you believe, one of the beliefs you have is that you have something to say.
Yeah, with writing, so that'd be another one of the critical variables in that particular category for efficiency.
I guess the question is, are you modeling yourself because you already have been able to do that sort of naturally through the course of your life, or are you design engineering this, and this has been the result?
Well, I think it's design engineering.
Okay.
I think it's pulling together those critical variables, and how else can I make this more efficient and aware. So I almost always write to an outline. It's not a real detailed outline, but that's partly what I'm doing at the coffee shop when I'm reading and writing. I'm making all kinds of notes, and I'm writing to themes, to ideas. And when I'm writing to, so I have a sense of where it's going to go, although oftentimes it seems like it takes me places where I wasn't. And so sometimes I'm just surprised what comes out because of the mixture of reading and writing. And in that sense, and this is probably a good lead off to the next thing, every time I go to the coffee shop when I'm home 2 hours every morning, 2 to 3 hours. And usually I'll stay there and I'm reading good quality books. I'm reading stuff I've gotten from the library and research, and I'm getting ideas. I'm writing stuff, and I'm thinking about how that connects with this. I'm usually reading to one subject or two subjects because I'm fairly focused. And usually after a couple hours, I just can't stand it anymore. I've just got so many other ideas. And for me, that's a sense of abundance. It's a sense of, I'm not going to run out of ideas for years. And I keep all kinds of notebooks. And so sometimes people say, well, where do you come up with ideas? Well, I read. You know, the difference between plagiarism and creativity is that plagiarism, you don't give credit and you're just going after plagiarizing one person. Creativity, you just plagiarize 100 people. And you can't remember who said it. And so you have a big bibliography and you call it research.
In terms of your research, is that your research style before you start writing? So you kind of like writing and researching at the same time?
Definitely.
Okay, so it's not like two separate tabs.
Yeah.
That was the question I had. Do you have an outline in terms of your day plan? Like, okay, today it's going to be 2 hours at the coffee shop, 4 hours of writing, 2 hours of this, 2 hours of that, or does it kind of just flow? Or is that, you organize your day ahead of time for what's going to be?
Well, the day is organized generally, like you're saying, a couple hours for the reading and the researching, and then generally I'm writing the rest of the day and taking breaks in between for some exercise, some relationship, and other concerns, and that's when I'm at home.
You have like broken like, okay, for these next 3 months I'm going to be following this schedule because I want to get this book done.
Well, I do that. That's part of efficiency. I do think of the next 6 months I'm working on coaching stuff. I've got a couple of different projects going on. I'm reading everything toward coaching and writing toward coaching to understand that more. And so as things come in, they're going on, well, that's next. Okay. That's not now, because I've got my next 6 months pretty well filled out in terms of I know what I'm going to be looking at. In fact, I've already gone to the library, and I have an interlibrary loan situation where I can just get all kinds of books.
To become those 6 months, you got the days kind of like this day will be this will be that, but them off the bigger chunk of that.
So abundance is the next one we're going to go to that I think plays a part in career and doing things if we're operating from abundance. And in terms of creativity and ideas, feeling like I'm not going to run out of ideas puts me into a state of abundance to where I'm ready to share the ideas. In fact, part of abundance is the more I share and talk with somebody about some idea, they give me some ideas, and it just amplifies it. And it seems to me that whatever we're doing, if we're operating from abundance, we'll be in such a better place to create wealth because we're operating from wealth of self, wealth of ideas, wealth of heart and loftiness of attitude and spirit, and wealth of relationship, and that wealth is inside out. Because when we start defining what is wealth anyway, it doesn't take long before we realize it's a lot more than money. That there's a lot of people with money who aren't very wealthy. You can have a lot of money and be very poor if your attitude is stingy and narrow, and it's, so wealth is so much more than money, because there's a lot of people who have lots of money and don't have any time. And how wealthy are they if you don't have time? And there's a lot of people who have money and don't have health. So how wealthy are you if you don't have good health or energy, vitality? And there's a lot of people with lots of money and they're kind of deficient in ideas and thoughts. And so mentally they're not very wealthy. So if wealth is mental wealth and emotional wealth and richness and state wealth, wealth of states and experience, and wealth of relationships and wealth of creativity, that what do we need money for anyway? For those, we want to have experiences, and we want to have freedom and time. So if our definition of wealth is so much more, then wealth has to come from the inside out. And it seems to me that the heart of wealth is adding value. Adding value. So how can I add value? How can I add value to my own life, add value to my own states and emotions? How can I add value to other people? And if I can add value, I become valuable on the marketplace, because people will want the value I can add. And it seems to me this is all the more especially true when we're talking about intangibles like coaching and consulting and training and counseling and mentoring and working with people and enabling people to be and managing and delegate. That all those things are, if we're coming from abundance, then we can give wealth. I mentioned the other day that the attitude is that if I have an attitude of, if I own this business, how could I make it richer, better, greater? And with that attitude of looking for that, what a different attitude than most people in the workplace. Because most people in the workplace is what do you need to be giving me? What do I have to do? What's the least amount before you fire me? And what a stingy, narrow, unrich, unwealthy attitude. So abundance seems to me to be the state of choice. Plus, it feels great. Now, most of us have grown up in culture and societies where abundance is not the most natural attitude. And so we learn scarcity, and we take the model of external resources that have a certain amount, and we apply that to these intangibles where the more I give, the more I have. And so then we start becoming stingy in mind and have a scarcity mentality. My guess is all of us struggle against that and need to get into more and more of abundance. The abundance is that win-win. That I win, you win. We all get something from this that enriches all of us. And of course, if you don't believe that that's possible, if you don't have that frame as a belief frame, then it's hard to go there. So the pattern that I'd like to move to is page 61, the abundance pattern, and creating a map for abundance, stepping in there, feeling that, and then letting that drive and enrich us from that standpoint. Reg, you ready to go? The first step here is applying that kind of wealth and abundance to yourself. And what I've written here is that it's kind of like the self-accepting, self-appreciating, self-esteeming. How easily can you go there and get some of those feelings of appreciation and awe, and then apply back to self?
In certain contexts, yeah.
In certain contexts.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get those contexts first, and we'll generalize it.
All right.
So let me have you think about something you appreciate and get that feeling of appreciation.
Something within myself or just generally?
Something that evokes in you appreciation. You can see value.
All right.
You can recognize the wonder, and you melt with appreciation. Something small, simple. So if you were to gauge how much you have that sense of appreciation, okay.
All right.
So how much?
Well, here what I'm thinking of is just can it just be like a beautiful scene? All right. 10.
Okay, so you can go to that state and feel that state of appreciation. Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to anchor that just to be able to control this feeling, to that feeling of appreciation.
Okay.
And as you feel that, notice how you're breathing, and the eyes of appreciation, and the voice, whatever you say inside that just allows you to melt.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so feeling that. And I'd like you to feel this now about yourself. Feel that. But as you can appreciate outside, you can bring that back.
Oh, great.
Okay. Appreciating.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And you have permission to do that and feel that for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you feel that and apply that back to yourself, really notice now what comes to mind in terms of what can you appreciate most? The gifts, the abilities, the functions, what you can appreciate about yourself. What you find of value.
Okay.
Let's now let this, as it were, fill up an energy bubble around you, just a bubble of appreciation, of value, so that you have a sense of operating from that bubble.
Right.
And imagine taking that appreciation for self and just letting that energy, whatever that energy feels like to you when you see and attribute value from yourself out to the world, let that energy be there. And as you do, just notice how abundant it can become. Okay, so it may double, it may expand, it may grow, and just have that sense of abundance. Is this easy to believe?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you aligned with that?
Yes.
Anything not quite yet aligned with this? You want to have this and keep this?
Yes, definitely. That's all aligned. Yeah.
Okay. So imagine moving through your world with that. So that you have so much to give, and the more you give, actually it sets up a self-renewing process. The more you give, the more you have. It's almost like, how much more can I give? Because the more you give, the more you
great.
have. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Okay. So self-renewing, because in the world of the intangible, if the world of the mind, of the emotions, if it's intangible, and the wealth gets more and more, because the more you teach, the more you're learning. And you probably have lots of experiences with knowing that really deep inside your muscles. The more I teach, the more I'm learning.
Yeah,
I get much
true.
more.
No.
Okay.
No, that is true.
Okay, so that's what we want, that sense of abundance and that self-renewing process. As you do this, let me invite you to notice the movie in your mind, how you represent some of this. And what if you let that movie really represent a self-renewing process?
Okay.
So noticing what that looks like, and is that compelling? Does that compel you when you look at that movie?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Feeling all of this, and I'll just let this be an anchor for this whole abundance now, this whole abundance. There's been times when you've not been here. So contrast this to moments when you stepped into scarcity and felt the need to maybe protect or not give.
It's like an emptiness.
Okay. Okay, that's like an emptiness.
That's like an emptiness, yeah.
And this is like a fullness.
This is like a fullness. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a very kinesthetic feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is different?
Well, interestingly, the the scarcity, it's almost like, I feel like I'm being abandoned.
Okay. Okay.
Whereas the other one, it's a feeling of fullness through my body.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it kind of fills me. You're talking about the bubble. It's like I'm in that bubble.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And there you're abandoned. Here there's a sense of support from others.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other differences?
In terms of submodalities, that's cold, dark.
Okay.
One's full of light.
Okay. Full of light.
Yeah.
Color.
Color. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So making that distinction that between scarcity and the fullness and the abundance of this richness, of this value, and you've already stepped into this, and we've already been future pacing this. Now imagine taking it into relationships, work, coaching, working with executives, working in corporations, just moving through your world with it. And future pacing in there. Any objections at all?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not.
Freedom to be here. Do you trust yourself to be here?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any sense of vulnerability, having all this fullness and this sense of giving and this win-win relationship?
Before I came up, there was not, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
If
So
I thought about it before I came up, yes.
Okay.
But definitely not, no.
Okay. So let's make an enhancing decision. An enhancing decision, there's an executive part of your mind that makes decisions about how to move through the world. Is it ready to say yes to this? And
Yes.
to let this be your way of
Yes.
operating?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Could anything seduce you to go back to the scarcity?
No chance.
Okay.
No way.
So you're clear about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So just notice that.
Oh.
And let's check your matrix as you do that.
Okay.
How does it affect who you are, your sense of self? And you may want to say something out loud or just know that inside.
No, I feel a lot better about myself.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable, more settled within myself.
Okay. Your sense of power, your sense of being able to do things and have resources.
More empowered.
Okay. Your sense of time.
Seems to be more future in it.
Okay.
More like a future.
Okay.
Orientation.
Okay. So the abundance that started with just that awareness of the self-renewing abundance, now we start letting it spread throughout that matrix. More time, more self, more power. Others. How does it affect others?
Actually, it's probably where the biggest difference is. I feel it's much more encompassing of others.
Okay. Okay, so it's embracing others. And the worlds that you travel and negotiate.
The way looks easier.
Okay. Okay. So be with that.
Okay.
Notice in your body so that you can know how it feels to be here. Because if you have it anchored in your body, your breath, your eyes, your voice, of abundance, of wealth, inside out.
Wonderful.
Give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Whatever abundance means to you, and of course that thing of self-renewing abundance, I think that's one of the keys. Because if you use the metaphor of the external world and external resources, which there's a limited amount, if you bring that and apply that to the inside, then there'll be scarcity. Because there's only so much and we have to divide the pie. But if your sense of, we'll just make more pie. And we can always make more, and there's always more thoughts, and there's more is richness, and the more, then that's a different place to be. And if Robert Kiyosaki, he says, money is not wealth. Wealth is thoughts. So it was the thoughts that Fran Tarkenton had about those paper sheaths that created the wealth. Wealth is thoughts. And thoughts that can supply need and have a sense of, I have much to give, that can enrich, that can enhance, that can feed these opportunities, then we create wealth where there was none. And so when you have that sense, then that's the next step that just fills in that seizing opportunities. Any questions about how to do it? Okay, got a couple questions. Let's go to Denise first.
I wasn't watching that plan because you were anchoring. Just feel when you were anchoring.
Anchor the state, the feel of abundance, and I just anchored it on Reg's arm, just that feeling of abundance so that we can bring that back, and appreciation. I started with appreciation and then turned it into abundance, just so that we can bring that to many things and then expanding it.
That was my question.
No.
Anchored appreciation and abundance are the same.
Yeah. You know. The interesting thing is that at the heart of wealth building is appreciation. And of course it starts inside and then out. And because the word appreciation means to find value. To recognize value, to acknowledge value, to create value. And that's how we create wealth. We create value. In the business world, value added is a common phrase now. Value. How can we add value? And when you got that as your frame of mind, how can I add value? How can I make this richer, better, fuller? And you got that question in your mind. And of course, it all starts from the ability to appreciate. Interesting enough, Abraham Maslow, when he gave his 9 things that characterize self-actualizing people, when he got to the very top of the 9 of the 9, it was continual eyes of appreciation. The ultimate in human experience. It's something that we can start with and do to ourselves and then just start spreading.
No, just one of the things you said about the wealth being thoughts just reminded me of something I read in some wealth book at some point. I can't remember which one it was. But the author there made a statement. He said if you just think about it, he said to look around, just stop and look around, and everything you see, the building, the boat, this class, it all originally started as a thought in somebody's mind.
Somebody's head.
Everything. So that was just
first created inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just came to mind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 12 minutes each. 12 minutes each. And come back feeling abundant. How'd that go?
What would happen if you put this self-generating frame into every single process that's positive for you rather than just the abundance pattern? Would that be an issue or a problem?
No, for most part, that would be a real good thing to do. Do that self-renewing, self-regenerating. What was that?
You don't want to do that.
You mean 2 rehearsal. The world's not ready for you. The world's not ready for that much abundance.
What I thought was actually interesting is to apply abundance to the cinema of my own mind, where the same process started to happen. That's where you created high-quality thoughts. Which was like an interesting thing, which was a self-generative thing. I really thought that was a nice little. Nice little glitch you guys did.
That is good. That is good. I like that. Today we've been talking about taking our personal genius, that focus state, that engagement state, that commitment state, that we can get in and just get lost and get in there and kick. Now to add some business intelligence, seeing opportunities, seizing opportunities, efficiency, abundance. We've been adding these kinds of things so that with our personal genius, we can take that into business, and we can be effective, we can be successful, we can get things done, we can contribute, we can add value. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Anything holding you back from succeeding in your line of work, your line of engagement?
No.
Okay. Because what we're talking about is living genius at work. Living genius in our careers, in the things we want to accomplish, the legacies we want to leave. And some of that is finding our passion, living our passion. And if we make that shift to where the process is half the fun, or maybe most of the fun, then we can begin today, we can begin tomorrow, those of you leaving tomorrow, you can begin this next week of taking that into your everyday life and looking for more and more opportunities to make that manifest. Now, obviously, we could talk about a lot more things, all the other kinds of games business experts play, or other facets of business. But this begins the process, and it is just the beginning of being passionate seeing opportunities, seizing opportunities with abundance, and then going out and letting that self-organize into whatever it is that we're doing. We have one more piece we're going to do, but before we do that, I just want to make sure everything is settling well and you're fine with it, and you have that sense that you can maintain and live those genius states and create a viable business with it. Well, the only other piece that seems to me that we need to add to this at this point is boldness. And boldness is like the next step from passion. We're passionate, and maybe you're passionate, you really care, but you need a little bit of boldness just to maybe turn it loose. Maybe have enough of that eye of the tiger, enough of that hunger, enough of that passion so that come hell or high water, come what other people think, you're just going to make it happen. You're going to make it so. And so it's that going for it, just doing it, that boldness. If you were to rank yourself on boldness, what does boldness mean to you?
Courage.
Courage. Okay, courage. And courage usually is facing the fears and facing the apprehensions and making it happen. What else does boldness mean?
Taking action. Yeah.
Okay, taking the action. Taking the action. Initiative. Okay, so determination. So part of boldness is that determination, just the time has come, I'm ready, and it's time to turn it loose.
Taking risks.
So taking risk, that's part of that boldness. That boldness of I've got the mindset, I've got the state, I've got the strategy, I see some opportunities, and now let's take the risk.
Taking action, taking action that is a little unreasonable but courageous.
Okay.
Yeah, being in action unreasonably.
Being in action unreasonably.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, we're asserting ourselves.
So even if you have fear, just do it.
Okay. So back to courage, that even if there's some fear, we just step out there and just do it. Do it anyway. Face that fear.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries.
Pushing the boundaries. Okay. Okay, not affected by what others say. Once we're clear, and once it's part of being true to ourselves.
Going into the unknown.
Okay. Not only taking risk, but also entering into what we don't know and going into the unknown.
Going beyond the obstacles.
Okay. Pushing beyond the obstacles.
Leave them behind.
All right.
Ready and willing to rock the boat.
All right. Ready and willing to rock the boat.
Or stabilize it.
Or stabilize it.
Are you guys rooming together?
So what we want to do is to add a pinch of boldness. Or a bowl full of boldness. Or maybe just take a bath in boldness. And to add more and more boldness so that we're free to push some of those boundaries. Does anybody have some boundaries you need to push out? Okay. And you know where your boundaries are, that you need to push those things out so that you can, and take your passions and find out. Because isn't it, sometimes it's sad when you see a movie about, you see someone's life, and at the very end, it's all regrets of what they could have done, should have done, might have done.
Movie Remains of the Day.
Okay. And so to commit ourselves not to end up that way, but to have boldly taken some steps and to find out what were possible. It seems like a lot of genius has that quality to it, that quality of pushing beyond and finding out what could be possible if I give myself that kind of a chance. And so that's what we want to do with this last piece, adding some boldness to it. Everybody ready for boldness? Yeah. What we're going to do for this final induction, Mike's going to turn on some music, and Mike and I are going to lead you through a little process. It's an induction that's a very different kind of induction. Instead of closing your eyes and lying down, we're going to ask you to move your chairs out to the walls and all your stuff, and we're going to come back and have plenty of room so that we can get into an energy bubble, and we're going to add boldness to it. So if you'll put your things away. Oh, the genius state. So step into your genius state. The engagement. What's important to you? What you see it? Step into that passion. Hear what you hear when you're there. Might want to bring some of this music to put some music in it. A genius state. Now we'd like you to add the boldness. The boldness. Do you have a passion? What is that passion? What is that vision? What is it that you're hungry for? Hungry. What is it for you that's a magnificent obsession? A magnificent obsession. See it, hear it, feel it. Just be with that magnificent obsession. Be with it now. Let the hunger for it grow. As the hunger grows, get a growl inside. That'll help with some boldness. A ferocious resolve. Ferocious resolve. Hear the words in the back of the mind. Mine. 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 You may have some other words, like yum. Yum. Anything that helps you to imagine that passion, to be with it, see it, hear it, feel it. Notice what it feels like when you're there. The breath, posture. How are you breathing? How are you standing when you're in that boldness? The eyes of boldness. The eye of the tiger. When they see you, what do they see? Now imagine pushing your boundaries. Anything that would get in your way. Push out your boundaries. Maybe it's what others will think. Maybe it's being embarrassed. Maybe it's some old thoughts in the back of the mind. They don't go to your head. Just push them away. You have no time for that. You're too bold. Too strong. Taking a risk. Imagine taking a risk, stepping forward into the unknown. Stepping forward into a place where you want to go. States you want to experience. Experiences you want to have. Just imagine moving forward because you can. and will.
And you know you can. And you know that you will.
As you push the boundaries, step into the unknown, add whatever resource that'll serve you well. We've covered so many: proactivity, responsibility, optimism, resilience, abundance, playfulness. And you can add resource upon resource. Let your body feel it fully, because it's yours.
And just breathe it in and let it feel your entire being. And you can say it's mine now.
It's mine. You can say yes to it. Yes.
You can notice how good it feels to have this boldness and all of these resources, knowing you can handle whatever comes your way.
What do you care about? What do you love? What makes you more alive, vigorous and robust? And in the back of your mind, rise up as to why that's important to you. Is it important enough? How much more importance would you like to give to it? Because you can. If a person has a big enough why, they can handle any how. Do you have a big enough why? Are you willing to receive and to get and to create a big enough why?
Isn't it great to know if your why's not big enough, you can make it even bigger?
When you have that big enough why, will anything stop you now? Can anything stop you now? Will you be stopped? Are you unstoppable?
Yes.
Feel that.
Enjoy that. Do you like that? Wow.
Because we're giving ourselves a chance now to feel. We've done the intellectual work. We've thought about what we care about, aptitudes, passions, genius state, engagement. Now it's time to feel, just to register in our bodies, and to do it standing up, to do it intentionally, and to clear out anything that would stop us. We've talked about slaying dragons, reframing toxic thoughts, saying no to limiting beliefs. We've also talked about just letting things go. And so as you're standing in this place of your personal genius and adding boldness, if anything comes that you just need to let go, then breathe it in and expel it. And do that a few times, breathing in anything that could possibly need to be dealt with. Because the moment of choice is when you bring it in, you can then ask the question, do I need to take counsel of this? And if you don't, you can let it go. Fear, doubt, worry, apprehension, old references, what mom said, what dad said, hurts from the past. Just let it go. Because sometimes the pathway to mastery is a matter of just letting it go. Do you need it? Letting it go. Free your mind. Let it go.
What does it do to your confidence and your boldness to know that you're in charge and you can let it go? To be able to say, me, not me, no more.
And thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. As we start this morning, we're going to be moving today into attitude. Supercharging our attitude so that the attitude I have with whatever I face in my life from this day forward, as I take out the personal genius states of focus and commitment, engagement, and the living genius states, I can supercharge my attitude in such a way that I can have the right attitude to make things happen. We've heard all of our life, everything, it's all about attitude. And most of us know that attitude makes that much difference. That the difference between people at any skill level is the attitude at which they take it. So we're going to supercharge our attitude. We're going to supercharge it with trust, and we're going to apply that trust to ourselves and to our genius states and to our bodies and our immune system. We're going to meditate trust first. We're going to do the opening up pattern. The opening up pattern will get to systems and system thinking and how we can open up a whole system of beliefs. So that sometimes having an empowering belief is not enough. You need a belief about that belief that will hold and support that belief. And maybe a belief about a belief is not enough. We need a robust belief about those beliefs. We need a whole belief system. So we're going to talk about belief systems, which is nothing more than attitude, which is nothing more than metastates. So today our focus will be on supercharging our attitude so that we can manage our attitude. Now, those of you in consulting or coaching or business or managing or supervising, if you're working with people and you need them to get the kind of attitude, metastates gives us the structure of attitude. Because what is an attitude? If you were to define what an attitude is, what is an attitude? It's a frame of mind. It's a frame of mind. What else is it? Okay, it's a gestalt.
It's not just one, it's a series of meta frames, but
okay,
the total of them creating a different gestalt called attitude.
Okay, so it may have a number of different thoughts and feelings that now have been gestalted, and it's an attitude.
But also it has the speech and the behavior components of that attitude, right?
Right. So an attitude, if you look in Webster's dictionary, it says a disposition of mind and body. A disposition of mind and body toward something. So it's a very holistic term, attitude. Because an attitude involves how I talk, how I behave, how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. So it's very holistic. It's a great synonym for state, attitude. And it's a predisposition. It's a frame of mind. It's a gestalt of many metastates. We now know the structure of an attitude. Because we could analyze a pessimistic attitude, an optimistic attitude, a loving and caring attitude, a bitter, resentful attitude. And so an attitude is the layering of metastates as a gestalt and creating those frames of mind. And now I can have my attitude rather than my attitude having me or someone else's attitude having them, because it's just a series of frames. So this is where we're going to go today as we wrap up and pull things together. I do want to, I guess, frame a few things as we get started, do a little bit of review. And for those of you leaving with us, this will be really your last time to ask anything you want to about metastates. And this is the place. We begin with awareness of awareness, which creates self-awareness. Or this fancy word that we use, reflexive consciousness, self-reflexivity. And awareness of awareness is what takes us into this wild and wonderful world that we call metastates or the matrices of the mind, because we can then become aware of our awareness. In old psychology, beginning with Freud and Adler and Jung, and as they began psychology from the 19th to the 20th centuries, one of the little statements they threw out, and it was really the theme of psychoanalysis, is that awareness is curative per se. Have you ever heard that one? Awareness is curative per se. The gospel of psychoanalysis by Freud. Sigmund Freud said, where there is id, let there be ego. That was one of his little lines. Where there is id, the innate striving and hunger and desires for whatever, let there be consciousness, let there be ego. Because they believe that if I could just bring it to awareness and stop denying and stop having defense mechanisms, if I could just be aware, the awareness would solve everything. And so psychoanalysis, even to this day, you get on the couch, and Freud did have this wonderful tool that he contributed, where he knew that if we censor what's in the back of our mind, we won't get to it. So he said, just free flow, let the thoughts intrude, and just whatever comes to you. He so happened to create a metastate structure because he put someone down in that format, and then standing kind of above them, he would go, and what's more? And what else did your mother do to you? He was in a meta position. But they did believe that awareness per se was curative. Today, 100 years later, we know that's not true. Because sometimes awareness per se makes it worse. Because now we're aware of kind of the Woody Allen thing. Now we're aware how neurotic we are. And so just knowing is not enough. There's that knowing-doing gap. But certain kinds of awareness are curative. And that's the key. What kind of awareness are you bringing? If you're bringing judgment, that won't cure anything. If you're bringing contempt, that really won't cure anything. If you bring despising and hating and bitterness, so some kinds of consciousnesses, awareness is toxic, but then there is just mindfulness, just observing, non-judgmental awareness, compassion, trust, love, appreciation. This is the kind of awareness that's curative. And so we've been going to awareness of awareness of awareness, and if we bring that special quality of awareness, then that does have a curative healing element. Have you found that to be true for yourself as we've been going through some of the patterns? That if you can just be aware. This is a diagram I like using to talk about how we create our matrices. And at the bottom it starts with a reference. What are you referring to? Oh, that day in school when I was 8 years old and I got slapped down and embarrassed and put into the corner. That's what I'm referring to. We have the ability to bring events inside of our consciousness and represent them. And so the next level there in the center of the mind is the represented reference. What do you carry around with you? That's how we bring the world in. We can represent to ourselves some facet of something that happened or that we thought could happen. So it starts with a reference, and we say, what are you referring to? And then we bring it in, and then we play that movie. And we play that movie again, and that's our represented reference, and that begins to send all the messages. But what do you think of that? And so we have thoughts and feelings about that one, and so then we move up to frames of references, frames of mind, frames of meaning, frameworks of personality, and that creates the matrix of frames. And so today we're going to, as we do the opening up pattern, we're going to open up to see what's above that, and what's above that, and what's above that, and we're going to open up a belief system. And we'll do it with some negative beliefs, and we'll do it with some positive beliefs to see how the system works. And so today I'm going to come back to systems and system processes to think about things in a systemic way. Thinking about it systemically, then of course we move to feedback, feed-forward loops, so that at the primary level, information is coming in, we represent them, and then we feed back even more information and more thoughts and more beliefs and more awarenesses. In that sense, it's beliefs all the way up, frames all the way up. And then we take it back down and out. And we feed it forward. So we're going to play with feeding back, feeding forward today with some of the patterns. One of the diagrams I haven't used, and yet we've been talking about this language, and that's the language of coalescing. When I first started using it, I used the word collapse. And then I realized it's not a collapsing at all, and it sent off some wrong messages, because in NLP we collapse anchors. And we collapse anchors on the same level. Tension, relaxation, tension, relaxation. And we set an anchor for both, fire them off simultaneously, and we don't know, what should I feel? Tense or relax? And so there's the dispersion or the collapsing of the neurological energy as we do it on the same level. But when we bring one state to another, it's not collapsing. It could at times, but most of the time the higher is going to coalesce into the lower. It's going to percolate down. It's going to soak down or texture it. So that's how finding some of these words and metaphors to describe that coalescing. This will become really important to 2-3 days from now when we get to meta-programs, because meta-programs are solidified metastates. Every meta-program, every filter you have that's part of your lens for seeing the world is a metastate that has coalesced, gotten into your eyes, into your body, and it's coalesced. Well, we can coalesce all kinds of things into our bodies, and one of the patterns I'm thinking about doing somewhere toward the end of the day is the drop down through pattern, because that is the opposite of the coalescing. We metastate to bring thoughts, feeling states, and to coalesce it so it becomes our attitude. It becomes our stance, our disposition of mind and body, and it gets into our muscles, our neurology. How do we get it out of the neurology? How do we get it out of the body? Well, the drop-down through pattern is a pattern that deframes and gets it out of the body. So anything that has coalesced into neurology and you want to get it out of the body, the drop-down through is a pattern that really releases it from that standpoint. So that's another terminology we've been using, and it's part of the system nature of things. Sterling mentioned the word gestalt just a moment ago, and as we gestalt, the gestalting is the fact that in this system we have an emergent property. Something emerges, surprising, unexpected, unplanned. Sometimes even we don't know when it's going to emerge, but it emerges. It comes about through all the interactive parts, and then we have maybe accelerated learning or joyful learning or an expert learner, and it's more than the sum of all the parts. And so that's what we've been doing the last couple days. Let me give you a moment to think about that. Have you had some gestalts emerge in your own mind-body system? It's fantastic. all that I say. You want to write that down? This morning. Tony's getting her jogging in this morning as he runs around. So take a moment or two to talk about maybe systems and these processes.
Actually, a couple of days ago, which was almost, if I translate it back to what I know, it's like as if there was an internal conflict between two things, and suddenly it was like you have destiny and you can shape things, but you can't do these things together, you know? Like, and then I was meditating and suddenly, but I didn't have those two words, and suddenly this whole new thing of shaping my destiny. In that instance, you know, in that specific context.
Okay.
And that was like a total new kind of frame.
Okay.
So, if you call that a gestalt, then that, yeah, something totally new emerged from that. Yeah.
And the nice thing about experiences like that is that we really, for the most part, don't have a word to describe that new emergent combination that's richer than all those parts. And this is where part of, I think, our challenge in the years to come is to create new kinds of terms that can summarize those gestalts so more people can go and have that experience.
It was interesting to talk about that, and then we come back to what was related to it. It was like, how do you consciously influence your other than conscious mind? And it was like, yeah, you know, that's like a almost a contradiction in terms.
Yeah. How do we consciously influence our unconscious awarenesses?
So then what came out of that was I can shape my given destiny, which was like an interesting thing.
In the gestalting, part of the gestalting is that a lot of times the gestalting will take time. So if you have obtained an outcome already that is kind of a richer awareness that then creates states and emotions and behaviors, if you've already done that, you know, so much the better. But sometimes you have to give yourself that repetition and keep repeating it until it bakes enough, and then out of that comes that new emergent property. So this is where patience and persistence will help with that gestalting. So what has started, I would really recommend anything that you're really committed, that I want, that state, that emotion, that behavior, that response, just keep it going until it emerges. And this is where our own personal creativity will be enriched by giving ourselves to the gestalting process. And so just keep doing it until it emerges. And in that sense, that's where it's hard to predict when it's going to emerge in you. Or you may need one more ingredient for it to emerge, and then suddenly the emergence occurs for whatever richness of concept that you want to have. Other comments, questions about all of this?
Yes, the hesitation that I had in speaking out, or you know, what were people think, or that it had. I can see now that it has to do with my matrix of myself and the other. It's more tied in with that.
Those two.
And and if I have that balanced, then I'm okay. But if I'm holding back here, and like you are possibly superior or something like that, then that's when I've held back before. And I was thinking in the situation like 12-step groups and Toastmasters and that, it's an environment where equality is encouraged. And so that enables a lot to come forth.
Okay. Okay, good. So today, one of the questions we'll ask again, especially when we do the opening up pattern, we're going to ask, what qualities do I need to my assertiveness? What qualities do I need to my speaking up? What qualities do I need to my negotiating style, skill, attitude? Because we can start adding those qualities, and we add them as just texturing that piece, and it's part of texturing, it's part of gestalting, and it's making it richer and fuller in that way.
It triggers the unconscious word that Vasily asked, and merging with the metastating and with awareness, it happens occurs to me that about non-being aware, unconscious, that leading into the unknown territory. Would you put the unconscious or subconscious traditional psychology term in that frame that is above that, which is the one you don't know, and how we could become explorers of the unknown, because it triggers to me that when you said, okay, we are going to be outframing and gestalting higher states, we are dealing into the unknown, stepping there with no idea what we are going to encounter, and I think that's exciting. But as adventures, adventures of the unknown. So I think we have you have here a great paradigm to explore the known and the unknown.
Yeah.
Outside of awareness.
Outside of our awareness.
Okay.
And in fact, that's the term I like best. To talk about consciousness, consciousness being, as it were, with the 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information, is like a flashlight that we focus on this and that, and we move around. And so outside of that conscious awareness is so much else. Where do your pictures go away to when they go away? You think about what your house looks like, and now we talk about something else, and where do the pictures of your house, where do they go? Well, they're outside of awareness somehow, somewhere. And so what is outside of awareness? So all the higher frames, for the most part, is that we're in awareness at the primary state, but it's textured and it's influenced by all that's outside of awareness. And traditionally, we would call that the unconscious. The pre-conscious was a term that Sigmund Freud came up with, pre-conscious, that it's just before consciousness and it's readily available. It's readily available. So it would be like if there's a circle of consciousness and the pre-conscious just right around that, you can easily get there. It's your memories, it's your history, it's all the things that all the knowledge base, the pre-conscious, and then the unconscious. Then he used a word for subconscious, and his terminology for the most part meant the autonomic nervous system and the immune system and all the physiological systems that are the substrate out of which all the other things come. And so I like using it in that sense, that what is sub. Now, we can go to some of those subconscious with biofeedback, so that I can become aware of my pulse, my temperature, and some of those things that's part of awareness, because when those things when they reach a threshold, they come into awareness, and we certainly notice our heart or our pressure. But with biofeedback, we can start really working with it. But how low can you go is the question. We've got a pattern in NOP, the allergy cure, that takes us a number of levels down into the immune system. Because apparently the immune system has made a mistake and thinks that something is dangerous when it's not. But because it thinks, it can get the blood chemistry and the neurochemistry to create allergens, to which then the system responds. But it's all a mistake. So the allergy cure is sending a metaphorical message down, and it has an effect on the immune system. So what is sub, what is at the level of awareness, and then what is outside of awareness, and so we try to model and think about those things, and so those are some of the words that are there. On our website, I think we've got an article that talks about which unconscious mind do you seek to train. And I think we've got 5 or 7 listed kinds of unconsciousness.
Oh, I was going to say something, but then you said something else to me that sparked something else. So the first something else, I was thinking of when you were talking about the gestalts coming up, and I just had this mental metaphor of alchemy, that we're like mixing these ingredients and whatnot, and as you were saying, adding one more, and maybe it's just one more ingredient that needs to be mixed in before the formula comes up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I'm feeling like. It's bubbling around there, and there's just the ingredients that come together. So that, here we're creating basically mental alchemy and creating states. The other something else that came up when you were talking was about the subconscious and or less than or outside of our awareness. And thinking, when you're talking about where the pictures go, I'm thinking when we have feelings that just well up out of, just come from somewhere. And is that them coming up from where?
Yeah.
But then when they do come up, they usually filter through the frames because those feelings come up because if we tease them out, they're frames that are set. So is that something coming from the less than conscious mind but filtered through the frames that then come up as a feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, so we really have several sources for feelings. We've got actually the kinesthetic sensations that's coming up from all the substrata of the lower brainstem and the nervous system and just all the sense receptors and our experience at the neurological level outside before cognitive consciousness that has influence, as well as the matrix, and things get activated, and sometimes it takes a while for some of those feelings to settle back down and ground itself in state. And this is where thought balls come from. We're minding our own business, but then in the matrix of our mind, thoughts are popping around, and then they pop in about self, about others, about the world, about time, about resourcefulness, and they pop in. And so the wild and wonderful world of our inner matrices. So today we're going to go looking at attitude. We're going to look at the inner matrix. We're going to play with some of the systems. And the first thing we're going to do is trust. We'll do that in a few minutes. Anything else before we move to our groups? We're going to move to our groups. And this morning we're going to be shorter and more succinct, just 10 minutes in the groups. And it's really just a check-in to see how you're doing, your outcomes for the day. Maybe even to check to see if you're getting your outcomes. Because one of the things I'm committed is helping and facilitating that process so that you can get the outcomes that you want and maybe setting some outcomes for this day. So if not, then 10 minutes in our groups.